All right, welcome back, the Genius. So this is the 12th day of this our program, and today we'll be talking about variables and data types in JavaScript. Okay, let's talk about what are variables and let's talk about the different data types that we have. All right. So today we'll learn how to use the let keyword, the constant keyword, the variable keywords to create data, to create variables. We'll also be looking at the different types of primitive types. So you are to read the Eloquent JavaScript, chapter 1 to 2, and also you don't know JavaScript up and going chapter 2. All right, these books, if you don't have it, please request for them. Ask for them in the WhatsApp group. So, and your practice, your assignment will be to store user information in variables. Okay. So what's a variable? All right. What's a variable? You know, when you actually have a value that you'll be using often in a program, you need to store them somewhere. It's not that every time you'll be writing them, every time you'll be writing the same value. So a variable is a named container that holds a value. All right. A variable is a named container that holds a value. Let me show you an example. I would go to I would go to I'll open this. And then, so I'm just going to show you a simple example here. Okay. So now this is, let's assume I have, okay, we are using the browser here. So let's assume I want to say console.log or, yes, I want to say console.log, my name is Swan Paulson. All right. Let's say I want to console.log one her person. I also want to say console.log. I also want to say my name is one person. You can see this same value, one person. I'm repeating myself. All right. Okay. I can also say console.log. My name is one person. I am a developer. I am a developer. Now you can see that the same value, I just have the same value that I'm using. I've used it 3 times. I've used this value 3 times. What should I do? I should actually store it somewhere because I'm using it every time. It wouldn't make sense that every time I'm writing the same thing. So I could store it somewhere. If I run this code now, I can click on this run button and, oh, sorry, I haven't saved. Okay, I run it again. All right, you can see it says consult one person. My name is one person. My name is one. I'm a developer. So, what can I do to make this thing better? I can store this value in a. I can tell the Python the JavaScript interpreter to store this value somewhere for me in memory, and then I can be using it. So I can just come back and say, all right, let me store this value. I can say const. I can say full name. I can say full name is equal to person. You can see. So I am storing it in a variable now. So this is a variable. You see, this full name now is a variable. It is a named location in memory. And I'm telling the interpreter, please, I have a value, and this is the value. This is the value. This value is a text, is a string. All right. I want you to store it somewhere for me in memory. When you store it for me in memory, give it a name, full name, so that I will use this name as the address. So anytime I want to make use of this value, I will call this name. I will use this name. So whenever I use this name, you already know what I want. So when I use this name, you would go and fetch the value for me. All right. So instead of now saying console.log one apostle, I will just come here and say full name. So the JavaScript interpreter would evaluate this variable. It will evaluate this variable identifier and then replace it with one person. I can also do the same thing here. I can say my name is, then I can say plus, that's concatenation, full name. Do you understand? I can also use the string literal. I don't know if you have seen this string literal before, but don't worry, we'll talk about it later on. So I can use I can use string literal, and then I can just use the use the use the template literal here. Not this, not this. I can say full name. You can see, I don't have to, you can see, I have just stored that value just one place, and I'm not using the variable. So I have stored this value in the memory and I gave it a name, full name. So anytime I want to make use of that value, I would call the name of this variable, and JavaScript understands it, and JavaScript would evaluate it because this is an expression. JavaScript will evaluate it and then replace it with the value. So if I run this code again, now we'll get the same thing that we got before. You can see we have down all the places that we have full name, JavaScript has replaced the value for us. So this is what a variable looks like. A variable is a named container that holds a value. For me, I say that it is a location in the memory that we have told the computer to store a value for us there. And whenever we want to make use of it, we'll use that label or that name. So think of it as a labeled bus where you can store a number, a word, or even more complex data. So in this case, we just stored a text, a word, all right? It sent a text, all right? So we stored the name, my full name, and we were able to use it some other time. So you can say, let name equal to Paul. All right, name is the variable holding the string Paul. So you can either use const or let or var. All right, we'll come to that later on. So now declaring a variable, you can use the var keyword or the let keyword and the const keyword. So I'm going to explain them one after the other. The var keyword was the old way of declaring variables. All right, it is function scoped. All right, so what do we mean by function scoped? When you have a variable inside of a function, all right, let me show you something. What would we mean by function scoped? All right, let's assume this is a function. I can just call it scoped. All right. All right. So I can just say, what do I have to do here? Um, okay, I can just say, I'm going to use var. I can just say var age is equal to 67. Okay. Then I will say if age is greater than 100, all right. If age is greater than 100, um, I'll create another, I'll say var. I can just say text. Don't mind anything. I'm just trying to explain this variable, this var keyword here. I can say text is equal to hello world. Hello world. All right. I am 100 years old. Okay. And then inside of here too, I can create another variable. All right. I think I will just go with this. So what I'm trying to do here is this. You see this var test? This test is a variable now because we use var to create it. It is for the scope is function scope. So what is a scope? A scope of a variable is the boundaries towards which you can have access to it. This is a block scope. This is a block scope, and this is a function scope. Do you understand? So now we created this test inside of this block, but we can also have access to this test outside of this block because any variable created with var can be accessed within the whole function. All right, within the whole function. So I can say console.log text. Remember, I didn't create this test was created outside, was created inside of this block scope. This is block scope. All right. This is block scope, and this is function scope. All right. So now with the var keyword, any variable is function scope. That means anywhere you create this, any place you create this variable, it will be available everywhere in the block scope. Sorry, in the function scope. So we didn't create this test inside here, but we are having access to it. So if I go on and call this function, let's run the code and see what we get. All right, it says undefined. All right, this test is undefined. Now the thing is that it's because of of course, this if statement didn't actually run. So I will say else, then I will say var test. Okay, all right. I will say var test. I am less than 100 years old. So now we will have something. So the whole thing is that this test was actually created in a block scope, all right, and then it is still very, very accessible outside of the block scope. So we're still saying undefined. If age is greater than 100, test is this. And it's still saying undefined. We should have okay, let me do something first. Let me make sure that my code is okay. So now, but it's telling me undefined here. It's telling me undefined. But I'm supposed to have access to because it is function scoped. Now, even okay, this can also explain what I'm trying to explain. Okay, it is function scoped, even though we are still getting undefined here. I wouldn't want to debug this code to see where the problem is coming from, but I wouldn't want to waste time here. But the thing is that it is function scoped. var keyword, any variable you create with var keyword is function scoped. All right, it can be redeclared. All right, it can be redeclared. Okay, and then it can be reassigned. So if you create a variable with var keyword, it is function scope, it can be redeclared and it can be reassigned. It also can be hoisted. It moves to the top during execution but initialized as undefined. So now that is the problem. You can see it was hoisted, all right. It was moved to the top of the execution it was moved to the top during the execution, but it was initialized as undefined. Do you understand? So now that explains what I was having here. See, it was moved in as much as it was created here as a block scope, it was still moved up to the top of this function scope, and that's why we were able to access it. But if I try to define this thing with the let keyword, it will not even be hoisted again. All right, it will tell us, it will throw an error. Before, with the var keyword, it didn't throw any error because we are using this test. Because first of all, it will be hoisted. Var keyword, if you create variables with var keyword, it will be hoisted. Hoisting means you created something under and it will be taken, JavaScript will take it to the top. So, but it will still be initialized as undefined. That is why we are having undefined. But this time around, if I run this code now, we'll have an error. It will tell me that test is not defined. But when we were using the var keyword, it was hoisted, taken to the top, and initialized to undefined. So, bottom line, please do not use var keyword to create variables. It is old-fashioned. It's no longer in use. It causes a lot of problems. You can see the kind of issues I was just having. All right. Now, the next one, the problem with var keyword is that when you have a function like this, all right, when you have a function like, if you have something like this, hello, all right, is still accessible outside. We created this variable here, and it was still accessible outside. So, okay, maybe this will be a better example for me. Now, what I was trying to explain before was hoisting. If I create this with var, it will be hoisted in as much as it was created later on below this. This is where we are calling it, where we are using it, and this is where we are creating it. It will be hoisted, so it will be taking it will take it to the top. All right, and once you take it to the top, it will now initialize it into undefined. So this is hoisting, and it can cause confusion. But now I can take this guy out here and bring it down here. So this is what we mean by function scope now. So if I run this now, it will give me that thing I was looking for. You can see it was printed here. So now, sorry, my bad. The first one I was explaining was hoisting. I actually missed it. So hoisting means that if you create with var keyword, all right, normally you're not supposed to use a variable before declaring it, but because you're using var keyword, it was hoisted and you could use it. It was taken to the top and it was now declared and then initialized to undefined. But you can see that when I use the let keyword, there was a problem because with let keyword, hoisting does not happen. So, but now you can see that this is the scope of this test, and this is the scope of this test, and then I'm still accessing it here because of the var keyword. Any variable created with var keyword is function scope, so you can have access to it within the function, within the scope of the function. You can see that is why we're able to get it. So please do not use var keyword. Don't run away from it. Don't use it. Don't ever use it. Okay? Then we also have the modern way of declaring variables, let keyword. Let keyword is function scoped. It's limited to the functions, to the block scope. Sorry, it's block scope, not function scoped. It's limited to this block scope, and then you can reassign it. That means you can change the value, and you cannot redeclare it in the same scope. So let me show you what we mean by this. So now let me just try and then do something different. I can say inside this function, I can say let age equal to let age equal to 89. Then let age equal to 89. I can come down and say let me just create a block here. If this if true, I can redeclare age is equal to 100. Do you understand? I can redeclare. So I can change the value. I can change the value of age. All right? I can change the value of age. I can reassign. No, not redeclaring. I can reassign. All right? I can reassign. So if true, age is equal to 100, what I did here was I'm changing the value. Okay, I'm not redeclaring here, I'm reassigning. So I can, if I now say let name or let test equal to hello, okay, this test is only available within this block scope, so I cannot have access to it outside. I cannot have access to it. If I say console.log, if I say console.log test, there will be an error. I cannot have access to it because this test was declared inside of this block scope. So I cannot have access to it outside of this block scope. I can have access to the age because it's the same, within the same block scope. All right. So just make sure that this doesn't confuse you. So now, if you're using the let keyword, the variable will be available within the same scope, the block scope. All right. It will be available. You can reassign it, but you cannot redeclare it. I cannot come and say let age equal to 100. So what I'm doing here is redeclaring. I have declared it here before, and I cannot come here to redeclare it. You can see I'm having some errors here now. You understand? It says cannot redeclare block scope variable age. So this will not work. You cannot redeclare it, but you can reassign it. All right. I can come and say age is equal to 100. So this is reassigning. I cannot redeclare, but I can reassign. All right. So if I try to run this code now, I will have an error because this test is not defined. So this test is within this block, so I cannot have access to it outside of the block. So if I run it now, I will have an error. Okay. Okay. So if I you can see I have an error here. It said test is not defined. This test is not defined. Okay. So in line 10, that's where the error is. So because of this test was not defined within this scope, I cannot have access to it. It is defined in another block scope. So I can only have access to this test within this block scope. Okay. So you can declare with let, you can redeclare. This is as allowed, but you cannot redeclare. You can reassign, but you cannot redeclare, right? Especially if it is in the same scope. All right. So when you say let s equal to 10 here, and outside of this scope, we are trying to access x. It can't work. It can't work. It's not S is not defined. So we have the constant keyword. You can also use the constant keyword to create a variable. So I only use the constant keyword. Sorry about that. I only use the constant keyword whenever I have a value that is not going to change. My full name will never change. The value of pi will never change. The name of your country will never change. The name of your parent will never change. Do you understand? So there are variables that the values will never change. So you use the const keyword to create them. It is block scoped. It cannot be reassigned. So you cannot change the value because you said it's constant. You told the interpreter, make sure that this value will not be changed. So it cannot be redeclared. It cannot be reassigned, but it is block scoped. But it must be initialized at the time of declaration. You must initialize at the time of declaration. So let's go on. Let me show you. So in this case now, if I say age is const, look at it now. If age is constant, okay, I cannot, and I'm coming here to reassign it. There will be an issue. So let me just remove this particular problem that we could hear here. So if I try to, here I'm trying to reassign, but remember, you cannot reassign a constant variable. So if I run here, okay, so, okay, wait, okay. So if I run this code now, I'm not really getting what I'm expecting. There should be an error here because we are saying constant here, and then in the same block scope, we are redeclaring. So let me use the terminal. Let me use the terminal. I will use git bash. So I'm going to say node. The name is index. You can see here, the error I'm looking for has come. It says assignment to constant variable. You cannot. Look at our error. This is where the error is. We are reassigning. It can't work. You cannot redeclare. You cannot reassign. You can't. All right. So this is, and it is scoped. All right. I can access this age anywhere inside the same block, inside this block scope. So you can see here, even here, we're even having that same error here. You cannot do the same thing here. So you can't do the same thing here. But you can have access to it. You can have access to the age within the same block. All right. But you must give, when you're declaring a constant, you must give it a value. You cannot do something like this. You can't do something like this. You can't. If I take it says age is declared, but its value is never read. Constant declaration must be initialized. But if I go with a let, there will be no problem. You can see there's no more error. But if you're making a variable constant, make sure that you give it a value. You must give it a value. So you must give it a value. If not, there will be error. All right. So that is it. Pi doesn't change. Pi is always 3.14. All right. You cannot reassign pi. So if you have any value that is constant that doesn't change, you can use constant. So when we'll still talk about objects and arrays. So the same thing is that when you use constant with objects and arrays, the reference is constant, but the contents can change. Objects and arrays, the reference, I don't know, I will explain what we mean by reference when we talk about objects and arrays. All right. So this is this person keyword, this person variable is the reference to this object. So you cannot change the person reference, but you can change the content. I can change the name. So I can say person.name is equal to TT. All right. I'm not changing the reference. I'm changing the content of the object. It is allowed. We didn't reassign person. We just changed the content. So we cannot reassign person here. Okay. So let's talk about data types. JavaScript has two broad types of data. Primitive data types, all right, they are immutable. What we mean when we say they are immutable is that their value does not change. All right. When you assign a value to a primitive data type, it doesn't change. All right. It is immutable. The string is a text. All right. We have the string is a primitive data type. And of course, you have seen it several times. We enclose it in double quote or single quote or using the backticks. So you can see that we are declaring a variable here. The name of the variable is name, and the value is a string. Paul is a string. It is enclosed in double quote. So it's a text. All right. So we also have number, integers, and decimals. So age that we have been using is a number data type. So a data type, data has a type. Every data has a type. All right. And then because of every data, the type of every data is different. You can handle them or do operations on them differently. All right. When you want to count money, you cannot use text to count the money. So it has to be numbers. When you want to talk about somebody's name, you cannot use numbers or decimal numbers or whole numbers to say their name. No. So we have different data types. All right. We also have the undefined. It is declared but not assigned. We also have, when you say let test, all right, you did not assign any value to it. So, of course, in JavaScript, when we talk about the data types, we are talking about the data types of the value, not the variable itself. It is the value that the variable contains that we are talking about. So in this case, let test does not contain any value. That means the data type of its value is undefined. It wasn't assigned. All right. So when you do console.log, you will get undefined, and that will be the data type too. We also have the null data type. So intentionally, you say that, oh, it is empty. So with undefined, you did not give any value to the variable. But with the null value, you're saying that this value is empty.
I intentionally does not want to give it any value. So it does not have any value. We also have the symbol. All right. We normally don't, the symbol and the big int. I don't think I have used the symbol or big int in any of my project before. So they are advanced anyways. So we have the non-primitive types. They have the objects, we have the arrays, we have the functions. We'll talk about them later on. We have the date, the regular expressions. These are non-primitive data types. So you can see this is a person object. A person object contains other variables as properties. So this is an array. All right, we'll talk about all these things later on. All right, in their own chapter, in their own classes. So if you want to get to know the type of a value, all right, of a variable, you can use the type of operator. The type of operator, you can use it to check the data type. So when I say type of hello, I will get string because the data type of hello is a string. The data type of 1, 2, 3 is number. The data type of true is Boolean. Yes, we didn't talk about Boolean. All right, we also have Boolean true or false values. All right, type of undefined. If you check for the type of undefined, you will get undefined. The type of null is object. It is supposed to be null, but for some reason, and this is a mistake in JavaScript. The early developers of JavaScript made this mistake, and it wasn't something that they could correct because a lot of code were dependent on it. So they just left it. So just understand the type of null is object. It is not a null. It is not null. So it was a quirk, a JavaScript quirk. It was an error, but they couldn't fix it. They intentionally have to leave it. Type of object is object. Type of array is object. Type of function is function. Okay? So best practices, use let for values that would change during your program execution. Use const keyword by default unless reassignment is needed. For me, I always use the const keyword to create my variables. So as I'm writing the code, if there's any need for me to now do any reassignment, then I will now go and change it to let, because const keyword has some performance reason. Avoid using the var keyword. Avoid using it. Name variables meaningfully. All right. This is what we call camel case. Instead of use meaningful name like user age, not X, not Y. All right. So summary table. The var keyword is scope. The scope is function scoped. It can be reassigned. It can be redeclared. Hoisting is possible. Legacy. All right. The let keyword is block scoped. You can reassign. You cannot redeclare. No hoisting. The value changes. Const keyword is block scoped. No reassignment. No redeclaration. No hoisting. And it is constant. Okay. So thank you very much. Please make sure you read the book that we have recommended. I didn't have enough time to explain everything. All right. But the books would expand your knowledge. And as you're reading the books, if you have any question, please throw it in the comment in the WhatsApp group and drop the question, or you can contact me directly and ask me the question directly. Okay. Do your test, do your assignment, and I'll see you in the next class. Thank you very much and have a great day.